Let me teach you about the real Hot Toys investment in this ultimate beginner's guide to Hot Toys collecting. And when I talk about investing, I mean investing in your collection so you can sustain the hobby for the long run and enjoy the figures you have now for even longer, even if Hot Toys has cursed your figure with pleather. I've been physically collecting Hot Toys for about a year now, but have watched videos, browsed stores, and researched into them for years, ever since I saw that Hot Toys Netflix Daredevil and Punisher prototype. I couldn't begin collecting them because, of course, I was too young, meaning I was too broke. Then I was completing college and then starting my first big boy job and stuff like that. But then I was finally able to start my collecting journey, and now I want to assist you with beginning your Hot Toys collecting journey. But Hot Toys is not the only 6-scale figure manufacturer around. There's also InArt, ThreeZero, Pure Art, Sideshow, Asmus, and even third-party companies that enhance our collecting journey by creating unlicensed figures. So, what are unlicensed figures, you may ask? Well, while companies like Hot Toys may obtain the license to officially make figures from properties like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and more, third-party companies create figures just because they want to. Because of this, these figures may not be of the best quality, but do not write off third-party figures yet, because this is one of the only ways to obtain some characters that may never get produced otherwise, like video game figures. Just look at that Nathan Drake and Agent 47. You already know that I'm getting both of them. And some third-party companies enhance our Hot Toys collections by giving us alternative outfits, like this one I'm getting for my black suit Spider-Man, or even upgrades entirely. For example, a third-party company created a full leather swap-out outfit for Artisan Anakin and Darth Vader, while Hot Toys just gave us pleather and called it a day. For the price of these figures, especially artisan figures, which we will discuss in a little bit, it is ridiculous to get materials that may degrade over time. But let's get back on track. On your collecting journey, you may be wary to purchase third-party figures, and rightfully so, especially when you are putting down a hefty deposit for a figure from a company that may have little to no track record, like I did with this Barbossa figure. You want to know that your money is not being lost to the void. But what you may be wondering now is, where do I purchase 6-scale figures? And although that is a difficult topic as it ranges based on your region, I will tell you where I usually buy my figures and which companies I have personal experience with buying from as a United States based customer. Of course, keep in mind that nothing is sponsored in this video. I'm doing this all my lonesome at this point in time. So let's start with Hot Toys. Where do you buy these? Personally, I use Sideshow as, like I mentioned, I am based in the United States, but I do not always use them for my figures. Using Sideshow is pretty great as they receive most of the numbered exclusives from Hot Toys, and by numbered exclusives, I mean figures that are limited to 3,000, 2,500, or even 1,500 units. Just to flex real quick, here's some exclusives I managed to lock in at Sideshow, so stay tuned to the channel to see the reviews for them. But anyway, I like Sideshow as their customer service is top notch whenever I do have an issue with my figure and need support to either get it fixed or some sort of refund to deal with the issue. Plus, they have a reward system where you earn 5% back in reward monies that you can even spend on pre-orders. I have used this many times because there are way too many good figures that I want to lock in. I learned my lesson when I almost missed out on General Grievous, but I'll tell you where I managed to pre-order him from in a little bit. Sideshow even does giveaways where they reward you with coupons just for entering, and random coupons at times just for fun. Although these usually cannot be used on pre-orders, I cried about this my first time as well when I went to use on a pre-order, but yeah, just fair warning for you. Sideshow is great, and they sell more than just Hot Toys. You can usually find ThreeZero, Asmus, Pure Arts, and Sideshow's very own 1/6 scale figures on their site, just to name a few. This is where I picked up my ThreeZero T60 Power Armor from Fallout and my Optimus Prime from Transformers. But don't think that you have to only purchase from one seller, especially if you're not US based and have to worry about customs or other fees for importing these figures from outside of your country. Even me being US based, I have to think about the potential of customs or even tariff fees on these figures as they are produced in China. Even purchasing from Sideshow at a time when tariffs were at their worst, they slapped a tariff impact fee on top of the price of their figure if they arrived at their warehouse when the fees were astronomical. So there are other companies you can purchase from. Real quick, I will note that there are some stores I believe the collecting community often refers to as Hong Kong resellers, but I will not go too deep into that. Just know that Hot Toys and some other figure manufacturers produce these figures in China, so when a figure releases in China, you may be waiting even longer for it to get to Sideshow's warehouse or wherever you ordered it from before it gets to you. But a Hong Kong reseller will often have the figure sooner and be able to ship it to you if you want to receive it faster, sometimes for an additional fee from them, and of course like customs. I personally do not do this as I can be patient, although it often leads to my reviews being sometimes months behind the biggest creators in the space, but that's a personal problem. I still have fun over here, so definitely hit that like button and subscribe. Another site that I've used is PopCulture, and although this is an Australia-based company, I did not have issues ordering from them in the US. I do hear that they get their pre-orders later than other sellers, but I will have to wait and see because when all hope was lost, this is the company I was able to pre-order my General Grievous from. So I am very grateful for that. And I ordered and received other figures from them previously because they often have some great discounts on older figures that you can't find anywhere else. Except maybe eBay, which all I'll tell you about eBay is make sure to check if the seller is reliable with at or near 100% score. The pictures do not look fishy, and see where they are selling from region-wise. I had success ordering from eBay when I first started, like this is where I got my War Machine Punisher because I was buying backwards to get some characters I missed out on. But just be careful and always use PayPal or a card that has buyer protection in case you do have issues. Also, never pre-order figures on eBay. If you have had success with that, let me know how it went in the comments, but I would not recommend it. Another US based seller that I have ordered from successfully is Alter Ego Comics. I would love to see their store in person one day, but for now they have a great selection of Hot Toys online, and this is where I managed to snag my Yellow Suit Daredevil, even at retail, so I am happy about that. Now, let's add a little bit of spice and talk about in-art figures and where to get those. In-art has entered the 6 scale scene and in recent years has taken collectors by storm. If that storm is made up of just a couple of releases and announcements here and there, like I am still waiting on those Walking Dead pre-orders, but their figures are very high quality from what I've seen. I have not owned an in-art figure as of yet, but I have 2 on pre-order currently and we'll be adding more as more get pre-order announcements. So real quick, let's get sidetracked and talk about in-art. In-art has some awesome licenses that Hot Toys either doesn't have or has and now has competition for, such as DC, Lord of the Rings, and Harry Potter. I say competition as Hot Toys makes some DC figures such as Heath Ledger or Joaquin Phoenix's Jokers, but in-art also makes those as they have the license as well. Fortunately, this has pushed Hot Toys to increase their figure quality and even give us the Artisan line, which once again I will explain a little bit later when we get to the exclusive section of this video. I have pre-ordered my in-art figures from Spec Fiction, but I do hear that it takes them a while to get their figures in and distributed to customers. I personally have pre-ordered in-art Snape and Superman from them. The Snape looks incredible in the prototypes, like just look at that. And I wish I got into the Lord of the Rings line with their Gandalf the Grey, because without him, I'm skipping the entire line. But I did get into the Harry Potter line a little late with Snape and intentionally skipped the trio and now Draco because I have hope that we will see figures of them from the later movies like Half-Blood Prince or something. I may have just shot myself in the foot and eventually will have to go back and purchase them secondhand. Buying backwards like that is something that some people do not recommend, as with the increase of figure 2.0s and such, we may get a superior version of a figure later on, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, and hey, we have to resell our figures at some point when we need space or funds for new figures anyway, so if no one bought backwards or secondhand, then we would all suffer. Now back to companies. I hear Comic Concepts is another good place to purchase figures, even in-art figures from. I have not purchased from them yet, but they do offer rewards that they call Comic Cash and stuff like that. The last place for figures I will mention is 16 Outfitters. This is another US based company and they do have in-art figures. And the main reason for that is that this is actually a US based store that also gets unlicensed figures like third-party figures and stuff like that. This is where I pre-ordered my Barbossa black suit Spider-Man outfit for that Bully Maguire sculpt, and I'm currently debating on whether or not I should pre-order that Ellie that's on their site, which at the time I'm making this video, it's still available, so check it out if you want that figure. Just by getting a little sidetracked here and there, you now know some places you can purchase 6 scale figures from, but you may notice that a lot of the times all you see are pre-orders. So what is a Hot Toys or any 6 scale figure pre-order? As a Hot Toys collector, Depending on when you placed your pre-order, expect to wait for your figure for about 6 months to a year before it releases, sometimes even longer. For example, I pre-ordered this Wolverine back in September of last year, 2024, and he is still estimated to arrive by September of this year at the latest. Although it may be longer than that, as you should expect figure delays when you get into the hobby. The time frames are usually good estimates, but often too generous and the figures take longer to arrive to you. Don't be discouraged from pre-ordering, even when it comes to budgeting. Most of the time you can put a deposit on a figure to secure them, or even do a usually interest-free payment plan, such as sideshows. I often use this so I can slowly pay for my figures over the next many months while I wait for them to release. Then once it does release, the figure's almost already paid off, and it's mine. But this can be a trap as well, and you need to budget. I put my figures, when the next payment is, and all of that info into a Google Sheet so I can track how many figures I have on order and the grand total of those figures. You would be surprised how easy it is to say put down a couple $20 deposits on figures here and there, then suddenly have thousands of dollars in pre-orders sitting there. You can cancel figures if you change your mind, especially at Sideshow, but just keep in mind that you will lose that non-refundable deposit, although sometimes you can get it back if the figure gets delayed. So Hot Toys has begun to limit how many figures they make even more, so you can no longer expect a figure to release and then pick it up. If there is a figure you want, act on it, but do not get FOMO or the fear of missing out. If the figure is not one that you 100% need in your collection, do not buy it just because you don't want to miss out. Many collectors have done that, and often that's the first figure that they end up selling. But don't sleep on a character you need either, because like me and Grievous, I got lucky on a different site, but if I missed him, I would be searching eBay once he released, or I'd be sitting on a wait list. When a figure that is either released or on pre-order sells out, presumably you can enter the wait list. It is not guaranteed that you will get the figure by waiting, but if another collector cancels or Sideshow or whatever company finds or receives additional stock, then you'll be able to buy it. You will often be notified by email or text that you have the opportunity to order that figure, and if it is one you need, jump on it immediately. The waitlist opportunities are often sent to multiple collectors, so if you want to secure your figure, then go for it. I am still waiting on my Winter Soldier waitlist to convert, since I waited in that queue even an hour before it truly began. But let's talk about exclusives like that Winter Soldier now. There are different types of exclusive figures, and honestly, all 6 scale figures could be called exclusive in some way, as they do eventually sell out and can go up in value later on. We'll focus on figures that are designated as exclusive. So, the most common way a figure becomes exclusive is that it either comes with a special accessory or accessories, it is limited to a certain quantity, it is only purchasable at a convention or something, or it's an artisan figure. So let's get artisan out of the way first, as I've thrown that word around but haven't explained it yet. Artisan figures are the most premium version of Hot Toys figures, as they're made with rooted wool hair. You may be thinking, oh, that's it? But yeah, that's basically it. The rooted hair is styled by, I believe, hand at the factory, and product is put into it to maintain the hairstyle. So as a collector, definitely be careful with these head sculpts and try your best not to mess up the hair by accident. Since they're the most premium version of the figure you can get from Hot Toys, they do require a little bit more maintenance and sculpted plastic hair, but we'll get to that when we discuss figure maintenance. Admittedly, InArt does rooted hair as well, and better in some cases, but from what I've seen, the rooted versions from InArt are not as limited, but correct me if I'm wrong. Like the InArt Snape, for example, they didn't make a sculpted hair version, and he is only rooted. Hot Toys artisan figures come with a hefty additional cost, sometimes upwards of $100 more, like the artisan Jokers here, but I believe it's worth it. The artisan line is for collectors who are willing to pay that extra cost to get the most premium head sculpt for a character they love. Sometimes that's the only way to get the character, like with Winter Soldier or Harley Quinn. I myself have a few artisans on pre-order, like Moon Knight, this crazy looking Wolverine, and Space Jesus Obi-Wan with a glorious rooted mullet. Luckily, I did not have to fight too hard to get these, as artisan figures are limited in quantity, but like that Winter Soldier I had my heart set on, sold out faster than it took me to say Armed and Dangerous. But it is fair, even if it sucks to miss out on a character you really want, because these artisan drops happen on Sideshow, and they do have a queue system that is now improved to where it feels like I have a chance to get these figures. This queue system is used for non-artisan figures that are limited by quantity as well. So the next type of exclusives are figures that are just limited in the amount Hot Toys is making. And keep in mind that sometimes these just drop on Sideshow and there's no queue, so keep an eye on them if there's a figure coming up that you want. One that I absolutely love is the Cherry Blossom Stormtrooper, but there are others like all of Delta Squad, sadly, because not everyone can pick up the characters they have been waiting on since they are exclusive. This Cherry Blossom Trooper is even more unique as well because there is an even more exclusive version of him available at Star Wars Celebration this year, 2025, in Japan. At that event, they even had Darkside Artisan Anakin, which is a grail for many collectors. I wish Sideshow gave us a chance of buying it, but it's exclusive, so one of these years I'll have to go to Star Wars Celebration and pick up some Hot Toys. So if you find yourself at a convention with Hot Toys, look for exclusive ones because that will help offset your collection from others even more than limited quantity or arson figures may, if it's a character you want, of course. Going back to that Cherry Blossom Stormtrooper, the version at the convention also came with an exclusive accessory, a very nice looking kimono that I will cope with and say I didn't need. No tears, please. I already talked about it in the review, and yeah, a little sad I didn't get that, but oh well, still an awesome figure. This is also the last way that I can think of that a figure can be exclusive, the extra accessories. Sideshow often has exclusive special edition figures with special accessories if you pre-order before they sell out. For example, I sadly missed out on the John Wick exclusive with this beautiful additional rifle, but I managed to snag Lord Starkiller to get the exclusive coin, the Amazing Spider-Man for the exclusive lenses and camera flash, Vader with the special plaque, and some more. Sometimes you can waitlist yourself and get these special editions later on, but keep in mind that you may lose your deposit if you cancel and order the special edition. For example, that John Wick popped up on the waitlist for me and I was like, do I really want to sell this one, buy another John Wick just for the rifle? And I almost did it, but that was a decision I made not to. And not always, but sometimes there are timed accessory exclusives, like the Range Trooper came with additional boots if you pre-order in a certain window, and Blade came with an additional blade from his original trilogy. But the big thing to remember here is that these exclusive tags are there to drive sales and build FOMO. Don't fall into the trap of pre-ordering just because you don't want to miss an accessory or arson figure or anything like that. We are all guilty of it, like, hey, I really wanted a Moon Knight and I'm not sure if I really want to display him with the arson head sculpt all the time, but I still put that deposit down because I didn't want to miss out on another Moon Knight. So by now, you know where to get figures, how to buy them, and what to look for if you want exclusivity. But what do you do once you actually receive your figure physically in your hands? Because you can't leave it sitting in the box, or at least you shouldn't. Please don't. You need to display that thing. That is where choosing the right display cases or way to display in general plays a crucial role in every collector's journey. Space is limited, and it could become even more limited if you choose the wrong display case. Also, your figure's lifespan could be decreased with the wrong display method as well. First up, where are you going to display your figure? Before you purchase any Hot Toys or any 6 scale figure, you need to have this figured out. I will admit, I do not have the greatest display cases and definitely check out my collection tour to see what I use, but I have plans for expansion in the future when I get a larger space for my collection. My and many collectors' dream display cases are Maju case. I want these cases badly, but like I said, I need a larger, more permanent area to put these cases. Maju cases to me are a grail display method. And I didn't yet mention what grail means in Hot Toys collecting, so basically it means your most sought after figure or something along those lines in your collection that you absolutely love. Mine right now is Jack Sparrow because that figure blew me away. Sorry, Cherry Blossom Trooper, you were mine and then yeah, Jack came in. But Maju cases, as you can see by the dimensions, can store a ton of figures in the front, the back, and of all different heights. Make sure you measure your space and get the right cases for you. There are different types of 6 scale Maju cases you can get, but these are pricey. And a lot of the time, Maju cases take about a year to arrive. But for me, Maju cases are in-game displays. These are displays that I want to have permanently. So because of that, let's look at some starter display cases that even I currently use. Right now, I have a hodgepodge of display cases because I was testing out what cases I wanted to begin my journey with. My favorite cases are the Brotar cases, if I'm saying that correctly, I bought from Amazon, as there is even a corner version I have. But there are some things to note with these. They are not too pricey and are even cheaper than some Hot Toys alone. These can store many Hot Toys with maybe a max of 7 per shelf if you want to use the bases and actually see the figures in the back. Maybe more if you go baseless. I'll discuss bases in the posing section next. However, you of course have to assemble these yourself, which is not too difficult until you get to the doors. Most display cases you have to assemble anyways. As you can see, my doors hang kind of crooked on some, and nothing I do gets them straight. So if you have tips, please let me know. I was able to get some straighter, but others, I said screw it and stopped spending hours fine-tuning the doors. Also, these doors do let in some dust as there are gaps around the edges. This can be remedied using like little weather strips or stuff like that. I haven't put any on my cases yet, but maintenance is key. So if you don't want your figure to turn to a dust bunny, definitely keep an eye on that and maintain them. But I do like that these cases have integrated lighting and even motion sensors that turn the cases on when you walk in the room. We all love turning things on when we walk in the room, of course. Another crucial thing to note is shelf height. Hot Toys are often 12 inches tall without the base, so this case has shelves that are between 14 to 15 inches tall, which is perfect, even for some taller figures. For slight DIY cases or do-it-yourself cases, IKEA is another great place to start. I say DIY or slight DIY as IKEA display cases are great and customizable depending on what you go with, but you often have to get your own lighting and run the cables and stuff like that. For example, I own one IKEA Millsbo and two Blaladin cases. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, although I'm probably not. Neither case has lighting, so I had to buy some off Amazon and run them throughout the display. This is a great option if you want secure, sturdy cases, if you build them correctly of course, that are mostly glass and make your figure stand out amazingly. However, with having to do your own lighting, the cable management could get difficult, although I'd say I did a good job with this one. Then for others, I did not, and the double-sided tape keeps giving out, making the light fall almost on top of my figure, and I have to fight it almost every day to stay up. But you can often customize the shelf height of these cases in case you get larger figures, like how I have mine here, a bit taller for taller figures in the future. If you want to go fully DIY for shelves, there are plenty of great tutorials out there, so feel free to explore, but just keep in mind a few simple rules. Get a case that has the proper shelf height so you are future-proof for larger figures in the future. Get good lighting so you can see your figures illuminate nicely. Ensure there is some sort of cover for display like a door so the figures are not exposed to too much dust or other elements. And of course, make sure you have glass or at least clear doors or windows on the case so you can actually see your figures. You don't want to tell people, yeah, the figures are in there, just trust me, bro. And on the topic of displays, let's talk about posing your figures. The community seems to be split between museum posing and dynamic posing, but it all depends on what you're willing to risk, the figure material, and personal preference. The most important thing to remember here is to understand the figure and its limits. Each figure should come with an instruction manual that tells you the figure limitations and how to use each accessory, how far you can articulate the joints, and more. I like to have fun with my figures and pose most of them in a somewhat unique way with the arms bent and legs bent and head tilt and yeah, stuff like that. But you need to consider a couple things before you do this. Number one is suit material. For example, if you have Luke Skywalker here, his suit is fully fabric so you can bend his arms and legs without worrying too much about damaging the suit. There of course is some potential for the joints to wear down and droop over time, but none of the accessories seem heavy enough to cause that, so I'm not sure how valid a concern that is. But if you have a figure like Deadpool where the suit is a rubber-like material, you may notice some creasing and stretching in the bent areas. As you can see, mine has some creases, but it is often healable if you put the figure back into a museum pose with straight arms. This does not guarantee that the outfit will go completely back to normal, but it often helps alleviate the stress placed on it. Another factor to consider is the base type. I use bases with my figure as the crotch grabbers or flight poles help prevent the figures from falling over. It is not the cleanest look as a figure staying on its own looks way better and way more lifelike, but preventing a figure from falling over is worth it to me. Some figures have special display options like Hot Toys Joker where there's a foot peg or waist clamps like on this Ahsoka. Companies like NR even use magnets in their feet and base. My favorite bases are deluxe dynamic bases like the Spider-Man or Batman base, as these bring the display even more to life. But the standard base stand are crotch grabbers which you raise until it nicely sits between the figure's legs to prevent it from falling over. Flight poles clamp around the figure's waist region and can even allow it to be up in the air in an even more dynamic pose, but use caution. For example, the waist clamp digs into Spider-Man suits and can cause irreversible damage with grabber arm indent. So use caution if you want to use a flight pole. For me personally, I do not mind some creases or indents on my figures. It may hurt potential resale value, but I want to make sure I'm getting the maximum enjoyment from my figures now and not worry about resale value, because that's not why I'm truly collecting. In this video, we're talking about the real investment, and that's having fun with your figures and making sure you're maintaining the hobby for the long run. I want my figures to look good in the display and also be stable. But if you do worry, museum poses are a thing too. Museum poses are often straight up and down standing poses with minimal arm and leg movement to prevent potential suit damage. For example, my Joker's kind of in a museum pose, although his arm is bent, but by giving the figure an accessory here, head tilt there, and arm and leg twist there, you have a good museum pose with your figure while still having it look very good. Now seems like a good time to talk about figure care. Let me get this out of the way first. Pleather. It peels, it degrades, it sucks. But Hot Toys and other companies are going to use it on their figures. They have gotten better on some more recent figures, like this Jack Sparrow has genuine leather belts and boots. The upcoming Terminator figures have real leather outfits. Luckily, the Indiana Jones I have coming in hopefully soon has a genuine leather jacket and whip. But for even their most premium figures like Artisan Anakin, they use pleather. For pleather care, I do want some more veteran collectors that may be watching this video that have had issues with pleather before to share some tips that they have for pleather care. But the best information I have found is to use pleather conditioning wipes every couple months, and that helps keep the pleather hydrated and flexible. Also, do not put your figures in direct sunlight or humid conditions ever. This will degrade pleather even faster, and if you can prevent it, try not to touch the pleather components too often or even use gloves. I have some white jeweler's gloves, but to be honest, I haven't used them very much except for when I want to slap a figure. Make sure to dust your figures regularly to prevent dust buildup. What I use is actually makeup brushes. These are soft as they're meant for the face and actually do a great job at getting off dust. The ones I use even come in different sizes so I can get into the smallest cracks and crevices. I touched on it before, but make sure to put your figures back into neutral positions on occasion, mostly if the outfit is made of a material that's prone to creasing like Deadpool or Spider-Man figures. You do not have to leave your figure in the box with a silica gel palette to keep it in great condition. Plus, the boxes are huge and take up a lot of space. So what do you do with these boxes? I keep my boxes. I keep the Hot Toys specific cardboard packaging as well and leave the figure box inside that. I have not resold any Hot Toys, but this is a great way to help them maintain their value. I will say, some people have found great relief by throwing away their boxes, which I would only recommend for figures that you know you'll keep for a very long time until there's nothing left of them but a speck of pleather. But if you have a storage closet, or even in my case, some under the bed storage, keep them there. If you end up with so many figures that you feel like you need to rent some sort of storage, then you may have gone too far, but I would love to see your ginormous collection, so let me know if you have that. But that is of course another option, although not a recommended one because it additional costs and stuff like that for the hobby. If you do not want to keep the cardboard shipping box, you can even display your Hot Toys boxes somewhere, like on top of your shelves or stack them in a corner somewhere. The boxes are often works of art themselves, unless it's a Star Wars box. Then it's just black because that's what the Star Wars license requires. Another great use for the boxes is accessory storage. I often store larger accessories I will never use back in the box, like the Batman backdrops or even his glider. You can do this for all accessories if you want, but if you don't want to dig in the box every time you want to repose, this is where tackle boxes come in. I use customizable tackle boxes for all of my accessories, except the larger ones I mentioned. This is a great way to store figure hands, swap out head sculpts, additional weapons, and more. You can easily access the tackle box and find what you need whenever you need it. You can organize specifically by figure or do what I do and mix some figure accessories together to save space, like Anakin and Obi-Wan for example. As long as the accessories are distinct enough, the possibilities are endless. Another option is to put some accessories on your display in the collection. I use Joker's money as set dressing for example, and even lay his machine gun behind him. For my Star Wars figures, I love to show their holograms on the bases and even their additional helmets. Obi-Wan holding his is awesome. But now, I believe that is a wrap on my first revision of the beginner's guide. I want to make further revisions in the future and share my and the community's knowledge with you all. So if you're a more experienced collector, please share some of your tips down in the comments as we welcome new collectors into the community. I want to take some of those tips and even put them to the test myself and make more videos to help out new collectors in the future. If you found this video to be useful in any way, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and like this video so you can join me in our collecting journey as we review new figures, look at upcoming releases, and do so much more. Check out other videos on the channel, and YouTube is even recommending you one right now at this very moment. Of course, comment down below your favorite tip from this video, or if you found any of this information useful as you begin your collecting journey. And I look forward to talking to you all again very soon.